This is our second YouTube live. For the people that follow the podcast, we are taking a little bit of a break between now and September. So I wanted to continue having some conversations for the industry and beyond. I'm very excited for today's session. We're going to be talking about leads, and in particular, kind of the truth behind that concept, and how to manage your leads, how to more effective, or how to be, more effective with the leads that you already have versus potentially getting more leads and things of that nature. My guest for today is Mr. Dave Dini. What's up, Dave? How are you, sir?
Herb, nice to see you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Sorry, I'm doing this deal from the car, but it's the long weekend. We got a holiday, so I'm out in Lake Havasu right now. Just
Listen, man, getting it done. I like it.
Yeah, dude. But I want
you are. I don't want to be in the car with you. Get out to that party. Let's go.
Yeah, man. But let's put this thing down. Let's see if we can add some value here too.
Absolutely, it sounds great.
Automotive community.
I appreciate you, Herb, giving us a opportunity to have a few extra ears. Very important, I think, to share ideas and thoughts and network. And I know you have a big network. So, did you want me to just kind of take off on what you brought up as a topic, or did you have a specific?
Yeah, listen, let's just have a free-flowing conversation. That's pretty much the format here of the show. We, before we kick things off, let's talk a little bit about your background, just so people know a little bit more about who you are and kind of what you've been up to and things of that nature.
Great, Herb. I appreciate that. My name is, like you said, Dave Dini. I grew up in New York. I'm a Chicago guy, so if I sound a little funny, I got a whole bunch of different accents working at one time here. Besides, I'm getting old. But I went to college at St. John's University in Queens for a year. Graduated from Binghamton, upstate New York. Played a little baseball. And when I was finished with that, I didn't know what I was going to do for a living. Had no idea. And I started selling by telephone. And it was unsold advertising space for radio stations across the country. So I developed a skill set. And that skill set I recognized quickly applied to all industry. And little by little, people started saying, hey, can you get me appointments, or can you sell this for us? So I started a company 6 years later. And in that company, we were doing some different things. The main thing we were doing was selling radio. I recognized there were a lot of people, Herb, that couldn't get over that hump of becoming a straight commission salesperson. But I spent a lot of time and invested a lot of money training them. I said, man, if we could create a secondary product, I could give you people jobs. And it became appointment setting. And it was like in 2000, 2002, around there, it was an auto dealership. And it was a subprime. And this dealership was 4,000 leads a month, and they were giving them to the salespeople. And what do we do? What is the nature of most people when they get a lead? If they're not hungry, quality salesmen by phone, they cherry pick it. So, long story short, we developed a concept that got outsourced to us to handle these leads for that dealership. And then after that, we just grew by learning how to bring prime customers into a dealership through equity mining and then BDC support. And then we started taking over BDCs and helping with lead conversion like you're talking about. So that's how I'm here today. That's what we do now for dealerships across the nation. We assist them with lead conversion and equity mining and BDC support and full BDC outsourcing. That's what we do.
Right on, man. I'm very, I'm very excited to have this conversation. And I think Dominic either posted something, or we were having a discussion on LinkedIn this past week about that particular topic. And it's one of those things that I talk to the stores that I consult with a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I actually learned this from Sean Welsh. So shout out from Sean. He was on a session with us way back in the beginning, and he said something that was pretty profound. He was like, look, most dealerships don't have a lead problem, right? They have enough leads. They can't handle the amount of leads that they're getting. And so when we put things into that kind of a perspective, right, when we pose that question or that challenge to dealerships, what does that really mean in your opinion? Is it because, okay, let's just back up a minute. What if you have 1,000 leads a month, but they're considered, garbage, what's called garbage leads, right? Is there such a thing as garbage leads, or is it more that maybe we have too much, we create bottlenecks within the system, and we don't really kind of allow that lead to go through a process, so to speak? What is your thought on that?
I love that, Herb. You're so dead on. We haven't spoken a lot, you and I, but it's interesting from different coasts. The guys that really get it, it's not like it's rocket science, right? But we've spent our time and our pretty much our lives trying to get some understanding to things that general managers and owners, they don't always find the time to do. They're in that box 12 hours a day, hunting, hustling, and it's hard. So they do rely on people like us, as long as they could, trust someone to give them this detail. And you're dead on. It's not the lead problem. Every once in a blue moon you get some bad leads, but listen, let's be honest. Motivation is behind all this. There's no bad leads. There's only bad thinking and bad attitude. A lead is just this concept of someone who reached out from wherever they are and they touched your button because they might have some interest in something. What you do with it from there has to do with the mindset or the program running in that person that's going to handle that lead. If that person is a nice person, but they don't love their job, they're underpaid potentially, or believe that they are, these reps and things, salesmen cherry pick, or they don't even want to dial the phone. And the owner is thinking, wow, I got all these leads and I spent this money and I did everything I'm supposed to do. But you don't have the right team pushing that ball down the field. And they say, well, how do I change it? How do I fix it? Oh, my BDC is not any good. My salespeople don't do this. But then they have a good month. And it's not because of that broken model. They just happen to have an organic good month. And they disregard it again. At some point, Herb, they've got to get a handle on what is the true expectation that I should be getting from my leads. Forget bad. Don't let anybody convince you of any of that stuff. Leads are neutral. It's a lead. Here's a good standard, and we got to help them create that. We can give them some now on your opinion and my opinion, what those standards are. How many appointments should I get? How many shows? And the solds are on your sales team. And once they have that, now you could say, okay, I'm getting that great result that Dave and Herb told me I should be getting. I can add, if I want to sell X amount of more cars.
Love that.
Right? But before that, you don't know. You have to get that. Now, here's the other thing. Now you got this phone. And with COVID and everything, the shelter in place rules, the phone was ringing like crazy. But BDC was just glomming on that, taking away an organic piece that needs to sit by itself and its own number. So if you got 1,000 leads, we can create some numbers for you, what you should get from that. But if your phone rang 200 times, give you 200 phone leads, that should create so many appointments and so many shows by itself. And I think it's getting jumbled and they don't get the real read on it. And then they have these expectations for this BDC that's not that interested in being great. So I think that's part of the issue.
Yeah, man, lots of things there that I want to touch on. In particular, that last portion, because I think that we don't look at the lead game the right way, right? So I definitely want to explore that. But let's touch on you talked about setting up the right I can't remember the word. I think you said benchmark or standard is what you use for the lead. So let's talk about that for a second. So I keep hearing this 30, 60, 40, right? 30% of the people you call, you set up an appointment, 60% show, 40% you sell. Why do you think that we relegate ourselves to those numbers? To me, that doesn't make sense. It's like we're okay with mediocrity, right? 40% of anything to me is not good. You know what I mean? So what I tell my stores, those stores that I work with, is listen, do 35, 60%, 75. So 35% of the people, 65% show, 75% you sell to. Why do you think that we see those numbers and we accept them as it's okay? Don't you think that when we do that, we're already kind of setting ourselves up to get less than what we should?
I do. I agree with you. I think from my vantage point, they don't even know anything, Herb. That's the problem. Like, there's no expectation. So they just go, I don't know if I can say this. We're live on YouTube. I'm not going to say bad.
Let's do it, man. Yeah, say whatever.
My BDC sucks. Oh, they suck. Why? Well,
Compared
you know
to what?
Exactly. So I just think at some point there has to be some sort of benchmark or comparative. And then we could say from there, we're not average. We're not basic. Who says it can't be 60% or 80%?
Right.
I agree with you 100%. And that goes back to mindset and motivation and expectation. But I think so many of them are lost and they're getting fed a bunch of bunk because it's job protection. BDC and BDCs are great. I believe in the concept. They got to be helped. But I think leadership has to know what the expectation is because these people are getting beat up every day. They don't know when it's good. They don't know when it's a great job. They just go with this feeling every day and got through that day, But if there was some sort of a benchmark saying, hey, you did a good job, I think that's why it helps. But I tell you, Herb, and I'm sure you could look at it, even at 30, 60, 40, so many of them, if you really took what the BDC was really laying claim to, not what they're laying claim to, what they really did, and you took their actual appointments from the leads and their actual shows, I think you'd find it more around 15 to 20% is all they're setting. If someone has 1,000 leads, maybe 20% are bad, so they got 800. And they're going to be lucky to have 170 appointments on that on a given month. And out of that 170, then they might only get 50% to show. And out of that 50%, the rest is on the dealership to sell. But so 30, 60, 40, I don't think is great. I agree with you 100%. And we got to shoot for higher, but I think we got to start at least by knowing, what is our number now, and then let's grow it.
Yeah, so let me expand on that a little bit too, because this is a point of contention for me. So what happens is, to your point, when we don't set that up correctly, right, and we don't set up the right expectations, first of all, what we don't measure, we can't manage, right? And so
True.
when we accept the average or the industry average, how can we do better than the average, right? If we're okay with the 30, 60, 40, then that's what that's what we're shooting for, right? And if we shoot for that, are we always going to attain it? No, we're typically going to attain under that. Right. So why not go for more, right? Why not set that expectation higher and hit for, look at it from, this is the process, and now we know, okay, this is the goal. And then every month we're looking at that. How can we adjust so that we hit the goal? I think that's a healthier way to look at it. And as a dealership, you are going to end up getting more business because you're setting up higher targets, higher expectations.
Absolutely. You're dead on. That's the way it has to go. And if you could go ahead and instill that thought process, it makes it simpler for everybody to live too. Now everybody knows the rules, Hey, we're not taking this is maybe what people are talking about. We're not taking anything less than bam. And we know we can get it. How do we know? Because Sally did it last month, and Joe's done it 3 times now. We know it's possible. How do we help you get it? If this is our company or our dealership, okay, this is what we want. We're not going to just shout it at you and yell it at you, right? We got to teach them too now. So maybe we then bring in training. Maybe then we bring in someone that can assist this process. But again, as you know, living in these dealerships and doing all the work that you do, you could sit in front of these people sometimes and they're just checked out. Mm-hmm. So they got to want to. And then you got to find out from them before I even waste my breath. Tell me why I'm getting paid either way, right? From the ownership to come in here. Tell me why I should spend my time with you. Sell me. I'm getting on another tangent now, but
No. I mean, I think it fits, man. And to kind of segue, this is a perfect place to segue. So we talked about, or you talked about recently, about kind of the after the after effect, right? And I want to expand on that because that's a great point. Like, let's say that you started today's day 1, right, in the BDC, and you get your goal is to talk to 100 people. Next month, if you're doing it right, you can't talk to 100 people, right? Because you have carryover from the first 100 leads that you got. if you're doing it right, if you're following the process and you're following up with their customers. And so I think that creates that's a issue within the BDC that creates a lot of bottlenecks, because we have that expectation of you have to make this amount of calls or this amount of activity. Well, what do you do with the stuff that doesn't convert?
I love that you're talking about that. I love it. That's another big area that I agree with you on 100%, which is this task thing. It's overkill, and it's wasting people's time. Bottom line is, I got to get these customers on the telephone. Now, if I just do this random school of thought that says text, email, call, and what becomes now is job security. I did my tasks, but it has nothing to do with my results. Exactly. I've got to get results. I've got to get X amount of appointments. If this dealership has to sell 400 cars, they've got to see 2,000 people or whatever the number is. They got to see 1,800 people. To see 1,800 people, I got to set 3,000 appointments, whatever that is. I got 26 selling days. I got to get in this now. 3 people don't show up for work in my BDC. And I think this kind of leads to another thing. Is it the worst concept to just say I'm not great at this and outsource it? You know, I know this is a nice segue and self-serving, but that's how I exist, Herb, is that every dealership doesn't have to do every single thing great. Big Fortune 500 companies outsource. So you could build it, but I think there's a lot of people going in those directions too.
So let's talk about that. What for a dealership? Let's talk about it. I'm going to pose 2 questions, right? Let's look at it from the perspective of your point, right? Hey, we've tried this BDC a couple of times. It just doesn't seem to work. But you know, the reality is that those customers need to get called. Those customers need to be followed up on. So does it make sense for my dealership in particular, to outsource this? And then let's also talk about, you know, should I even have a BDC in my dealership at all? You know, should this just be something that's done kind of outside of the dealership? And here's my thought. I think that the BDC, and I've had a couple of guests on the show and we've talked about this. So I'm excited to kind of get your take on this. But to me, it seems like the BDC has almost killed the salesperson or the salesmanship, right? Because the salespeople at the dealership, they don't call, right? They're not hustling. They're just up front waiting for that up to show up. Then they know they have this department that does their follow-up and all their stuff. So, you know, where's the salesmanship in that? And so if the BDC was maybe removed from the dealership, would that be more of a, you know, would that be more advantageous, you know? So if we can kind of touch on those two.
I think you hit on a lot of things right there. My mind's going crazy right now. But yeah, you know, like, first off, if you outsourced, the salespeople, I think the issue for the owner and the GM, it bugs them, it drives them crazy, Herb, is hiring a BDC or outsourcing. They're like, what do my salesmen do? What am I paying them for? I got to keep them doing something, otherwise it's not fair. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good concept. I understand. But why continue to give them something they're going to burn, not use properly? They're going to cost you even more. So that's one point. Now, point 2, I think that model is changing, Herb. I don't think the salesmen, most of them, are good. The old timers or the young ones that are hustling, okay. But the rest of them, they're on Facebook, smoke breaks, and then all of a sudden they're running to the door, tripping each other for the up that somebody else hustled to get. And they're not paying attention to the notes maybe that the BDC rep put in there, all the details that build rapport instantly at the front door. And I think the model might even change. I think the money needs to be in the hands of the people that are bringing the customers in. And a lot of these salespeople should just be customer service people. They should almost flip the script on who gets paid. And these people just greeting at the door are just greeters, professional greeters, or get worked by the tower. The other concept about the outsource is that if I know that this company or whoever it is going to give me and deliver me these numbers and or better, let's just say much better. Is it really a cost? You know what I mean? They almost are paying for themselves because I'm getting an additional 20 or 30 cars. And then how many of these BDCs, Herb, equity mine? So when you tailor that BDC to truly do what it's supposed to do, let's say this particular day we get 10 leads come in and you got 4 people in your BDC. They're all going to do this and that, but they're just task mongrels. They're not getting anything done. But now if you make them go equity mine to get the 25 appointments you got to get for the day, now you've pulled people into the market that wouldn't normally be in your shop. Because what do they come back at? What's the return? Is it like 25% maybe tops that people repeat by? I don't know the exact number on that. But now you're ensuring that they come back and you're getting good gross because they're not shopping. And now all of a sudden you have a BDC that pays for itself through equity mining. So it's not a cost at all. I know I just took another turn, but I didn't mean to.
I totally agree, and I get that. You know what it is, dude? Like, I feel that it's like for example, let's talk about inbound versus outbound, right? Should your BDC be handling inbound calls? In my opinion, they should not. Your BDC is there to only call customers and set up appointments, right? There should be business development, right? Stuff that's coming in, you're generating that through other channels, right? You're marketing, you're doing all this other stuff. Right. So your BDC, that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to build extra activity for your dealership. The stuff that's coming in, the stuff that you're generating through marketing channels, the stuff that you're generating through customers that already are loyal customers that are all that stuff 100%. Doesn't fall into that situation. 100%. And I think a lot of the times it's now I feel like not only it's a BDC, but it's a call center and it's all these different things. And so the task that the BDC is technically there to do gets diluted. You know what I mean? Now it's not really business development because you're adding so much other things to the plate.
Yep.
And so I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think that it should be an effort that's just business development focused and do nothing else? Like you made a good point. You talked about equity mining. Like what other segments, like in your opinion, how do you do that effectively? How do you build that out effectively?
I think you hit it all on the head just in what you just said. Your business development center is handling your internet leads through texting, emailing, and trying your hardest to get them on the telephone. It's all about that. The phone ringing, that's a layup, right? That's either your general sales manager, somebody at the tower, or you put somebody in place just to handle that.
Right.
And there's the phone. Now, like we said earlier, here's what I get from my phone. Here's my expectation. You're not getting me that? I got to get somebody else who's going to give me that. Internet leads. I got to get this. You're not doing it? I got to get somebody else. And then equity mining. And that's supposed to be coming from you guys too. Or a third-party vendor, if you decide to go that route. I don't know what else we would just – did I just touch on it?
Yeah, you did. So which leads me to my next point is measuring it. You know what I mean? Yeah. How do you effectively measure it? Because again, if you're doing inbound, right, and you're doing all these other stuff, how do you really measure it effectively? How do you really know what the BDC delivered? You know what I mean? That's why I feel if you silo it and it's just outbound effort based on specific segregated or segmented list, then okay, the leases due, we had 20 appointments, 10 cars sold off of that effort. If you're doing service, the service due list, we did all this stuff. If you're doing old purchases, people that purchased their vehicle 3 years and have 50,000 miles or more, we call those customers. How many of them were we able to flip into a new car? You know what I mean? Then we can go at the end of the month and we can look and be like, okay, let's run a report. This is what it did. This is how it performed. And now you can truly see it. I think the way that it's set up right now, it's just very, I mean, the BDC, I sold 70 cars. Yeah. But how much of that activity was that was people calling in because they saw your ad on Facebook or on third-party site? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's tough too, because you got these employees and you don't want to beat them down. But let's tell the true story. You got to get to the truth. And they're trying to lay claim because it's part of a pay plan. So if they're in cahoots with a salesperson that says, hey, so and so is in the dealership, and all of a sudden you see that this person or this group of people, this BDC, half their appointments happened, the show and the appointment all happened within 2 hours the same day. How is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
So, but no one's really looking at those things. So to your point, if you have a standard and you can measure it through the CRM, through the proper activity, you watch that trail, and someone knows you're going to keep them honest, now you got the best shot at maximizing your leads, maximizing your telephone, maximizing any other spend that you're going to have. You have to measure it, to your point. If we wanted to throw out some numbers before the end of the show, I think you hit on it earlier, though, when you said, hey, if we're going to take a standard and say what dealership should be looking at, I think what you started to talk about was good. Let's start at 40% minimum appointment set from your leads after you throw out, for sure, garbage leads. And then, like you said, I think you said 65 or 70% or 75 show.
Yeah, 75. I go for 75% sold. So 35%. But here's the thing. I also say, I don't, the way that I set it up is let's just for the sake of conversation, let's talk round numbers. 100. You got to talk. Now this is talk, not leave a message. You got to talk to 100 people to set 35 appointments. Out of those 35 appointments, 60% should be the target show and 75% should be the target sold. That should be the target. Now that's not industry average. I realize that. But why am I going to set my average at 40% sold like that? Why? Because the industry sold at 40%. So I
love that you're saying that part, Herb, too, about the closing ratio. Because, okay, we're talking about leads and BDC and all these things. But what onus do we have to put on the front lines, too? I can't, as you know, Herb, how many times do people right away make judgments in their mind about the customer and they just half-ass it, let's be honest, as opposed to treating every single customer like it's the first customer you ever had as a salesperson or the last one you're ever going to have. And if you exhaust all possible measures for that person, they're going to at least feel like they had a wonderful experience, even if you weren't able to put them down or come up with financing or whatever it might be. But too many people in their own brains cherry pick or make decisions. And I treat it almost like blackjack. I'm not a huge gambler, but the reason the house wins over time, there's a few reasons, but one of them is that no matter how the dealer feels, no matter how life has been, they show up that day. Regardless of what happened the last time they had a 6 showing, they have to hit again. There's rules. Every time, do this, do this, do this. And the salespeople don't do that. Mm-hmm. They don't up the customer properly. They don't greet them nice. They don't go ask them, would you like a water? And those things over time can cause great success or great failure.
Right on, dude.
Numbers. You've got to be consistent with what your process is.
Yeah, man. I mean, why? Listen, let's shoot for more, and then hold your people accountable to that standard. I mean, yes. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
All right, so we're getting close to that time, but I wanted to touch on this before I give you a little bit, before I give you a moment to talk more about what you guys do and how you help dealerships. But we talked earlier about just, as an industry, are we looking at leads the wrong way? And here's the question that I'm going to pose to you. What's the value of a lead? You know what I mean? Is that really the measurement of success for our business? Meaning, is that what we should really be measuring at the end of the day? And again, to quote my buddy Sean Walsh, if we're looking at the business from a lead standpoint, we don't know what customer service is all about. We don't know what creating an experience is all about. And so, although we do have to generate that activity, no doubt, is a lead in the traditional sense that carries so much weight in these conversations with decision makers in the dealership. Is that an archaic way of looking at our business? What are your thoughts?
My thoughts on this business and leads. First off, back to all the numbers. Once you have a good handle on your expectation and the growth you want to get from your leads, from your BDC or whatever department is handling that, and your phone, you're also going to get an indicator on what you're selling organically. If I did not spend a nickel on advertising, and we just said we got to go to war this month, how many am I really selling? If I sell 200 cars, am I selling 100 without doing anything? And I think that at that point, we would put leads in their proper perspective, because it's not the percent most dealerships think. I think that they think if they spend 30,000 or 50,000 or 70 grand on advertising, that's why they're selling 200 cars, and that's flawed. It's not why they're selling 200 cars, but it is the reason why they're making money. You know what I mean? They just sold 100, they might not be making enough money. Does that make sense, Herb?
Yeah, no, it does. It does. I think that, yeah, no, but I think that in the digital world that we live in today, like the traditional lead, not that it's dead, it's important. It's part of, you always want to have activity, things to do, right, to generate business for sure. But I also think that we've gotten the industry, the consumer in the industry, accustomed to not submitting forms or not, you know what I mean? Like Jason Harris always talks about the reason why customers don't submit leads is because we don't give them a reason to do that, right? We don't attach that to anything of value to the customer. And I think to a certain degree, there's a lot of truth there, but I also think that we're in an efficient market, right? Buyers and sellers have access to information, the same information. They spend 14 plus hours doing research. I think it's for used, I think it's a little bit less for new cars, maybe 12 hours or something like that. But for the most part, you know what I mean? If that customer shows up to the dealership, they're there to buy, man. And if you don't sell them the car, you screwed it up. There's just no other way to say it.
Agreed.
And so I think that although there is value in leads, right? I think that measuring the effectiveness or success of your business by how many leads you get versus how many you close, that's I think that's going to be a challenge for sure. And then you miss the opportunity to focus on customer service and focus on the experience and focus on offering consumers something that's uniquely different. So
I agree with you 100%, and I think I was kind of touching on that a little bit, saying that the leads don't make up as much of your business as you think that they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Even now, I think they're kind of lost on that. And as you know for sure, where are all the dealerships being asked to push things, to service, to be better in service, to go hit on recalls better or decline services? These are products we also offer, because you got to build from there. You got to build from service. You got to get your customer service better. Your salespeople, to your point, because there's a natural thing that somebody walks into your door, they're there to buy. You almost feel, whatever, sit over there, like they're an old chair, and they're not. The customer service isn't there. But if you could treat every single customer like it was your first or last customer on the job, I know things would get better for every dealership, and they do better on the lead conversion too.
Yes, sir. Hey, dude, this has been awesome. I really, really appreciate you doing this. Thank you so much. I want to give you a couple minutes to let people know how they can get in touch with you. What do you guys do? How do you help dealers?
Thank you so much, Robert. I really appreciate the time just to kind of get some words out to the industry, and hopefully it helps somebody. Appreciate it. I'm going to let Dom, if you don't mind, just tell Herb in a elevator presentation.
Sure.
Maybe move the camera so folks can see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're real quick about the products that we offer.
Awesome. Well, Herb, Dominic Bick is here. I know you and I have spoken.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Thank you again for the opportunity. Guys, so where you can find us, our website is www.paramountals.com. On Instagram and on LinkedIn, it's going to be Paramount.
Let me interject really quick, but everything's going to be in the description of this video. And when I upload it to the audio version, just go to the show notes and you'll get that information in there as well. So sorry, dude.
Absolutely. No problem. Hey, guys, ultimately what we do for the automotive industry in today's digital world, it's really not a question of necessarily the quantity nor the quality of the leads. I know we had a great conversation here, but it's ultimately what is it that you're doing with these leads to convert them into showroom opportunities. And that specifically is what we do best here at Paramount. It's turning these leads, and what is the lead? It's no more than just a phone number and a name in your fancy CRM system. What do you do as a dealership to turn that lead into a physical customer standing on your showroom floor? And that's specifically what we pride ourselves here at Paramount. Whether it is digging through your old database, taking a look at your previous sold customers, folks that bought a car from you 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, looking for the specific models you're looking for. We take these people, we bring them off the couch and into your showroom floor. Whether it is service, someone that serviced their vehicle but bought their vehicle from the competing dealership next door, we're going to turn these people, get them off the couch, bring them into your showroom floor so you can turn them into your sold customers. And then obviously where our business really is transitioning into, and which has been a big a focal point and a need for the industry, has been the BDC work. If you have a BDC, if you don't have a BDC, if your salesmen are doing it, I know the way the industry is changing is you want your salespeople, you want them engaging and interacting with customers all day long. If my sales manager is working 3 desks, he's not one internet lead that came in. Maybe he's focused on the brand new same day internet lead. He's not going back 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, 10 days. That's where we come in, Herb, and that's what we do best is following up with the leads. We're not focused on tasks. We're focused on bringing customers into the dealership, providing instant showroom traffic right now.
Awesome, dude. Hey, guys, again, thank you so much for doing this. Really appreciate it. Great conversation. Dave Dini, everybody. We're going to put the information in the description. Reach out to these guys. If you, I'm sure that even if anybody has questions on how to handle leads better and all those things, I'm sure these guys would be more than willing to help you. Just have a conversation. So make sure to reach out to them. Thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Herb, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys. Take care.